Talk. Juan here, and I'm sitting down virtually because of the coronavirus with Kendra, who is a licensed clinician in Western North Carolina. How are you, Kendra?
I'm great, Juan. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I, we go way back to
Way back.
undergrad, right?
Yeah, like freshman year undergrad.
I know. I was sitting down earlier with Elizabeth, my wife, and I was like, "How far back did we go with Kendra?" And then we started to talk about leadership. You remember that?
Oh, how could I forget? That was the best.
It's interesting, how we were back then and then where we are now. So many people in that cohort, just how they've grown and developed in life is really beautiful to see.
Absolutely. I'll have to catch up with you on who you've stayed in touch with after our interview today, because I'd love to learn more about where different folks are now. But I am so excited to be connecting with you after all this time, especially since we've had some parallel paths in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we are both healers and doing our best to help, as much as we can. So all those listening out there, tell them a little bit about, who you are, where you're at in Western North Carolina, and the type of work that you do in your practice.
Absolutely. So again, my name is Kendra, last name is Lilley, and I have been in private practice for 2 years now, a little over 2 years. And my practice has evolved a lot since I began. It's been quite a roller coaster in a lot of really fun ways, and there have been some challenges along the way, of course, as well. Among them, I've actually changed location a couple of times. I started off in the little town of Waynesville, which is right on the cusp of the Great Smoky Mountains, and more recently have moved to the Brevard and Hendersonville area. So I actually have offices in both of those small towns. And I've also been experiencing more of a narrowing down into some specific niches in the
Hmm.
time that I've been in private practice. I've started off working primarily with teens because that was a lot of what my experience was in, and I still love working with teens. However, being in private practice has allowed me to expand my client population into other areas of interest for myself. And so I do work with a lot of adults as well, particularly young professionals, college students, and young adults in general. And the folks that I've really come to love working with the most are people who have late diagnosis ADHD
Hmm.
or undiagnosed ADHD, especially in their adult years, body image, and kind of certain ranges of eating disorders and anxiety and trauma, which I know are really broad areas to state, but comes up for a lot of folks in different ways.
It does, yeah. I forget where I read, but I think someone quoted or hinted that trauma is like a fingerprint. I mean, it could just be so diverse on how, an individual could be impacted by a certain issue in their life, and then how that manifests or how that comes out, whether it's anxiety, depression,
Absolutely.
physically, some sort of symptom there. How long
Yeah.
have you been practicing?
I've been practicing for almost 6 years. I had to do some
Nice.
math in my head real quick. I was like, when did I graduate? And yeah, I did my graduate program at UNC Greensboro, and did my internship at Salem College in Winston-Salem,
Yeah.
and had some great experience there in the college counseling center, and have really been enjoying tapping back into that age group in my private practice. And then I did 3 years, in 3.5-ish years in community mental health doing school-based therapy with middle schoolers and high schoolers.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I had no idea that you worked in that setting.
Yeah.
When you mentioned Salem, I love going down there, and they used to have this restaurant, and I think they closed it. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's in Old Salem.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah, and
gosh, what was the name of it? I went there once. It was really good.
their pumpkin biscuits. I know it's not even the point of this episode, but bear with me. They were so good. I want to say I cried the day that I found out they were closing.
I'm really sad to hear that they're closed. I had no idea. I love going to Old Salem, and actually was planning to to head back that way early May for a wedding, and just found out that that is being postponed. So sad to hear that one of my favorite places isn't there. Hopefully the bakery's still there though.
The bakery was still there, yeah. But just something about, when you get to sit outside of a restaurant, enjoy that breeze, and it's historic, and then you
I
eat that
know.
pumpkin bread.
Cobblestones. Yeah.
Cobbles, yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Um, and right now, Kendra, you and I are, we're going through something, and you mentioned it before, we weren't trained for this. The coronavirus, COVID-19, we as clinicians, we're going through a change. How has that been impacting not just your practice or those that you serve, but your life?
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's like, yeah, in our conversation before we started recording, definitely talking about like, wow, we definitely were not trained for this. This was not on our radar, on anyone's radar, just how this would turn things upside down. And so in my personal life, it's kind of interesting. In some way, my husband and I have been in this preparation mode over the past year for just the unspeakable and unpredictable happening, and being very closely in touch with vulnerability because we lost our home to a landslide this past year.
Wow.
Had to evacuate over the summer, and in the midst of all that he had a head injury, and so loss of income, loss of home, and having to move quickly and figure out what our supports were. Feel like we gained a lot of resilience in that process of just being completely, yeah, like
Wow.
our lives were turned upside down and it was total survival mode. And so on, obviously this is a very different situation, but it has some parallels of like,
I see it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know what's going to happen and we don't know what's going to come next. And so I have had this response of like, well, here we go again. And just kind of dipping back into that reserve of skills that I've been utilizing really heavily over the past year.
Wow, I had no idea. And, I see those parallels. You're going through something very difficult, and then you're connecting to that support system. Are you here to help me?
Mm-hmm.
Are you here to support me?
That's right. Yeah, definitely. And just like acknowledging too that all of this with the coronavirus and then also the parallels with what I've been going through in my personal life, like it's grief, right? It's loss,
Hmm.
and we're dealing with grief on a lot of different levels as a society right now, as the human race, where it's just the loss of our future in a lot of ways. We don't know what to expect. A lot of things are getting canceled, loss of jobs, loss of income, loss of that face-to-face support. And so it's been impacting, yeah, it's been impacting me. I think it's impacting all of us humans, and that definitely does not exclude therapists. Um, and we are still showing up for our clients as therapists and humans. And I know for myself, I've been really trying to be transparent with my clients of like, hey, I am with you in like ways maybe you don't know. Like I'm in a really similar place, and that I feel has been so healing, of just being able to just be so human with each other. And that's a lot of what I bring into my work to begin with. Is I'm very relational and
Hmm.
very real. And so try to really just show up in that way, even now, especially now.
Yeah. I remember you telling me earlier, like we're not a blank slate. We want those that we serve, those that we're here to support or to walk with in their journey of life, to know I'm a person too. Um,
Hmm.
right now, going through this epidemic that we're going through, it's a change process. And what are you seeing, as far as the patients that you're serving, and what ways are you there for them?
Yeah, I so like I described, I work with a lot of folks who have issues with anxiety, ADHD, body image, and trauma as a whole. And I think this situation is activating a lot of trauma for
Hmm.
folks, and
Yeah.
that manifests in behaviors or emotions, right? such as anxiety and disordered eating and issues with attention and concentration. So these are issues that my clients have already been struggling with, and all of that has just been amplified. And so it's been kind of a learning process for me, trying to figure out how to support from afar, because I have gone 100% telehealth at this
Hmm.
point. So I'm seeing all of my clients virtually, and I'm hearing a lot of folks just really, really caught up in the worry and feeling very ungrounded and very, what's the word? Just, yeah, unsettled. And I've been doing my best to explore with clients ways for them to catch a breath. And
Yeah.
sometimes that literally is just as simple as walking out the front door and taking 3 deep breaths in the middle of the day. Because, well,
Powerful.
yeah, and especially for my clients with ADHD, self-disclosure, myself included, um, being in work from home mode in front of a screen all day is incredibly taxing, and that's true for all of us. But like, it takes a whole different level of mental and physical, like willpower and brain power. So finding those opportunities to really care for yourself and allow your brain and your body to release is so important.
Hmm.
And so there's been a lot of review of basic coping skills, grounding, and ways to take care of our nervous systems throughout all of this, which I think is powerful in and of itself, getting back to the basics, right?
Yeah. There was
Hmm.
something you mentioned earlier, and it really connected well. You said grief and loss. And I started to think as you mentioned those words that prior to this, I had a routine, going to the gym,
Hmm.
going to different places, being
Yeah.
able to get a beer on a Friday night. If my babysitter, if grandma was
Yeah.
willing to take care of the kids, and
Yeah.
all of that grounded. It provided, grounding, I guess. Not sure.
Structure. Yeah.
Yeah, to my life.
Hmm.
And in ways, it's not all gone, but some of it is. So there is loss from your end. If I'm that person with you, how do you step in? How do you support?
Yeah. Well, at this point, we're so, like, all of this is still so new, and we're very much in this like picture yourself like trying to balance on a teeter totter, right? And like a weight gets put on one side, and like we're just trying to like if you could see me, I'd be like going all over the place right now. I'm like embodying this kind of tipping back and forth, and like really allowing yourself some space to be imbalanced for a bit, and like be
Yeah.
very self-compassionate of like, of course you're struggling right now, and of course this feels scary. Like, how else would you expect to feel? And we need that space to be able to settle again. And the more we panic and try and grab onto something quickly, the more it just exacerbates that feeling of being imbalanced. So just like allowing yourself to drop into it a little bit,
Yeah.
and not try to rush so quickly to grasp onto something has been um, how I've been trying to support people through this, because this is early days, and
Hmm.
it's going to take a little bit of time to find the new normal. And one of the best things we can do for ourselves is to remove that sense of pressure or shame that we may place on ourselves to like just get it together.
Yeah, I've been hearing that. I'm a parent, and in the parent
Mhm.
community and the working community, there's, am I going to make enough money? Can I fill the role of a teacher? Are my kids going to get stuck and left behind,
Yes.
academically?
Oh yeah.
And all of that. And you said it perfectly. Trusting yourself, falling into some of those feelings. And it reminds me, I can't remember if we did it in leadership, but those activities where you stand in front of somebody, like if I were standing in front of you and I turn
Mhm.
around so that my back is facing you, and I
Mhm.
open my arms up and then I fall back,
Yes.
right?
The
And
trust
and they,
fall.
and they, yeah, and then you catch me. But with that,
Yes.
it's me on both sides, being able to have that
Mhm.
strength. And that's really what I'm hearing from
Oh
you.
my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, that's where your
A
words, it took
self-contained
me there.
trust fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I hope I can use that with your permission at some
Yeah, no,
point.
absolutely. As you were sharing that, because I'm a dad and I'm a husband, so many things that we play. Hey, doggies, I hear them out there. Um,
This is just real life
it's
right
real
now.
life.
Working
And
from home.
there's times where I'm losing my SHIT, and I'm trying to figure out, how do you do this math problem? And it's only kindergarten math. And I'm like, what the heck? um,
Yes. Oh my
so
God.
it's trying to let go of some of that control of
Mhm.
uncertainty and saying, you know what,
Mhm.
we got it. We're gonna be okay.
Yeah, like anything that you can do right now, or anything that you are doing right now, is already enough, because there's no map for this. And that's true of so many things in life. Like,
Yeah.
how many times have we put needless pressure on ourselves to just get it together or conform to some pre-decided standard that we've set for ourselves, when really what we need most is some space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you notice that you're providing alternative, like routines for people? I read a good article, if I'm bringing it up, and they were like, now you can't go to the gym anymore. So do a home workout.
Yeah, definitely. That has been part of the conversation with, I think, almost every single one of my clients in the
Hmm.
past week, has been, okay, like what could what can you carry over from your old routine, first of
Yeah.
all? And for the things that you cannot carry over, what are some viable stand-ins? What would feel good in your current setup? What, or like, also exploring what are some things that maybe you couldn't do before, but now you can with this new available time and setting, being at home or whatever circumstances they happen to be in. And that has felt really like clarifying and helpful for folks from
Yeah.
what they've shared with me. And I know that that's something that has been helpful for myself in just working through it with my own therapist, of like, what can I do to tap back into a structure that feels supportive and healthy in my day to day? Because yeah, I mean, we need routine on some level. Even the most self-proclaimed spontaneous folks, like, our brains are just wired to appreciate structure. Like, that's just
Yeah.
how it is. And it definitely will take some brainstorming, I think, for most folks, and some adjustments, right? Like, we're
Hmm.
not going to just unroll this new routine. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. I had one of the clinicians at the practice that I'm at, and I was talking to them about this same subject, and they were like, what I have my patients do is I'll have them write down what their current routine is, and then I'll have them
Mm-hmm.
pull one thing out, like going to the YMCA for a workout, and then I'll have them write down 10 alternatives to that.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, that's really powerful, because at the end of the day, it seems like it's more about if I get to decide what I want to do versus if I'm forced to do something that I don't want to do.
That's right. Yeah. And I love that idea too, because it creates permission
Hmm.
to check in with yourself on a moment to moment basis and ask yourself what you really need in that moment. Because your needs are going to change from day to day. You may not always need a workout. You may
Yeah.
need rest or to connect with a friend. And so, like, having options available of kind of, yeah, like different things to choose from is a really intuitive way to work within a framework still.
Yeah. How blessed are we? I know that we're going through this and it's so challenging. And, just thinking that we have technology, like we have right now, you and I are doing this video call. We get to use our smartphones. I could not imagine
I
going through
know.
this years back
I
where,
had that thought too.
right, we don't have those resources. So there's always
I,
light in the darkness.
I know. I was literally just thinking about that, because I was thinking, wow, I was able to send out a mass email to all of my clients through my encrypted client portal online, letting them know that I was changing to telehealth, and send out new consent forms and migrate my whole practice and the over the course of like maybe 2.5, 3 hours. And like, what would that have even looked like
Yeah.
before screens?
Yeah.
And so we knock them, but we're served by them. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And I'm
There's,
so grateful.
yeah, I'm right there with you. I guess back then we would have had a messenger on a horse. And they would have came back like 6 days later, letting us know.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if we were going quite that far back. I was thinking we're just like telephones with the spiral cords, but yeah, I like that
There,
visual a lot. Carrier pigeons.
there we go. Humor is always good.
Oh, so good. Our bodies need that release.
It does, especially now. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. My goodness.
Kendra, I have enjoyed every minute of this. I know there's so many people out there where they're not going to work because of the virus. Kids are not going to school.
Mhm.
And I think being able to connect with a clinician, someone that's experienced, someone that knows how to go from A to B, but understands you. And I love who you are because it's easy to see how willing you are to be vulnerable and say, this is who I am. Let's connect. Let's move forward. How can those listening connect with you?
Thank you. I would love to hear from folks, and I will also say that I am accepting some new clients via telehealth right now. If anyone feels like they could use the support, I can be reached at my email address, which is Kendra, Kendra, at sunburstcounseling.com. You can also submit an inquiry via my website, which is www.sunburstcounseling.com. And I also have a phone number, which is 828-243-5492. And I'm able to serve anyone who resides in North Carolina.
Awesome. Well, it's been amazing having you on here. I hope that you stay safe, and I hope that you continue to help and to serve and to be there for those that need you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Juan. And I've really enjoyed this conversation too. I hope we can stay in touch beyond this interview. It's been awesome to catch up.
Absolutely. We're going to do that.
Yes. Take good care.